Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mogan Ram, Professor in the Department of Mechatronics Engineering, K.S.Rangasamy College of Technology. Today our topic of discussion is combustion mechanisms for burning coal. Coal can be burnt into two forms, either in the solid form or pulverized form. To burn the solid fuel, we have a solid firing method for solid fuel burning and pulverized firing method for pulverized fuel burning. Mechanical stokers are used to burn the solid fuels. There are two methods or principles can be used, overfeed stokers and underfeed stokers. The principle of overfeed stokers, grate receives fresh coal on top of its surface. Primary air from post draught fan enters the bottom of grate under pressure. Air is heated from the grate and grate is cooled. Warm air moves through a layer of hot ashes and picks up additional heat energy. Air about 1200 degrees Celsius passes through a layer of incandescent coke and exothermic reaction provides heat release for continuing the combustion process and continues till all the oxygen is consumed. Fresh fuel is supplied on the bed surface, forming topmost layer of the fuel bed. Here, the fuel undergoes distillation and loses its volatile matter. Principle of overfeed process. The ignition zone lies directly below the first fuel undergoing distillation of volatile matter. The gases leaving the bed surface contains nitrogen, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrogen, combustible volatile matter, and water vapor. Sufficient secondary air is fed at the right angles to the upflowing gas stream from the fuel bed to burn the remaining combustible gases. Traveling grate process. This traveling grate process can be classified into three types. These traveling grate stokers are used for solid fuel firing overfeed stoker method. Bar type, chain grate type, and vibrating grate type. The bar type series of grates are formed by endless chain which forms a support for the fuel bed running over two sprocket wheels, one variable speed driven at the front and another idle shaft at the rear end. Coal enters the moving grate from the harbor through an adjustable grate provided at the harbor outlet so that fuel bed thickness can be regulated by raising or lowering the grate. Simultaneous adjustment of grate speed, fuel bed thickness, and airflow controls the burning rate. The air required for combustion is supplied through air inlets situated below the grate. Secondary air supplied through the ports provided at the deflection valves. Spreader stokers. In this stoker, coal is partially burned in suspension and partially on the grate. Function of the grate is only to support a bed of ash and move it out of the furnace. The coal feeding and distributing mechanism are located above the grate. Raw coal is delivered to the furnace by a series of feeder units. Feeders are operated with variable speed drive to control the quantity of fuel supply. Spreader consists of a rapidly rotating shaft with short-pisted blades for distributing the coal uniformly over the grate. The primary air supplied by fan enters the furnace through openings provided in the grate. Secondary air is supplied above the fuel bed through nozzles. Principle of underfeed stokers. Coal is fed into the furnace below the point of air admission. The fuel and air move in the same direction. Primary air passing through the holes in tuyeres diffuses through the spaces in the raw or green coal. The air mixes with the volatile matter released by the raw coal and passes through the combustion zone. In the region of incandescent coke, the volatile matter breaks up and readily burns with secondary air which is fed at the top. The gas then passes through a layer of ash where it picks up additional heat energy and finally discharges to the furnace. Principle of firing in the retort system and the underflow stoker system, the coal has to be fed from the bottom and it has to be pushed. We have retort system to push the coal from the bottom of the grate. This is single retort stoker. So there is a coal harbor which can be filled by coal and this is the ram. So when the coal is fed into the large harbor and the front of the furnace and horizontal truck by means of reciprocating ram or screwdriver, this coal is pushed up. Air required for combustion is supplied through the tubes provided along the upper edge of the grate. This one is multi-retard stoker. It consists of alternate parallel trucks called retards into which coal is pushed by fitting a reciprocating ram with each of its. Pusher plates are provided for uniform distribution of raw coal. Coal falling from the hopper is pushed forward during inward movement of the stoker arm. The distributing rams oscillate parallel to the retard's axis to move the entire coal down. Air is admitted to the furnace through the holes in sides of the tuyeres. The coal is continuously agitated by the plunger and plunger plates along the bottom of the cut. When the coal is heated, all the volatiles in it are distilled. It is in the form of coke and ash. When coal reaches the zone of active combustion, ash is collected at the other end. Pulverized fuel. In the unit bin system, the burner has its own pulverizer and handling unit. That means if you have many number of burners, each and every burner will have its own pulverizer. Crushed coal falls an overheated bunker on the feeder at the control plate. Crushed coal is dried in the feeder with the help of primary air. Dried coal is then fed into the pulverizing mill where it is crushed into fine powder. The pulverized coal is extracted through the separate ball mill by means of exhaust or ID fan and carried to the burner along with the hot air. In the separator, oversized particles are separated from the fine dust and falls down again into the mill. Indirect or central bin system. Fuel is pulverized in the central plant and then distributed to each furnace with the help of high pressure air current. Crushed coal falls from an overheated bunker on the feeder at controlled rate and dried in the feeder with the help of primary air. Dried coal is then fed to the pulverizing mill where it is crushed into a fine powder. After milling, the coal dust is carried to the cyclone separator with the help of air. The transported air is separated from the coal in the cyclone separator and the air is returned to the mill circuit. From the cyclone, the separated pulverized coal is transferred to the central coal bunker with the help of conveyor. From the bunker, fuel is conveyed to the burner by forced draft fan through the pulverized fuel feeder where the primary air is mixed with coal. Thank you for watching.